maybe even a question period at the very end.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've run some Ask Me Anythings, right, for customers, so I don't see why we couldn't try that too. But today we're looking at intelligent marketing. All right, Wing It Podcast, goosedigital.com, episode 102,
103?
102, 103. We'll take it. Who do we have?
Kevin Butler.
Michael Turksani.
It's been a while, but we're back.
Yeah, it's been a while. We're back. Sorry to our audience for our lapse of content. The social media team has been reusing the old clips.
We've exhausted all of the clips and then some, and now we're empty. We need to refill it.
Yeah, we need to refill. But to be fair, we have had webinars and fireside chats and a bunch of other stuff to fill up the pipe. So,
Yep.
but yeah, we're back on the podcast groove, and we're going to even look at we were talking about doing a slightly different format, not for today, but maybe off into the future, where we're covering some of the latest news and riffing on that.
We thought news could be a few different things, whether it's evolutions of like new tools and approaches. I mean, AI would certainly be the forefront of that, but also it could be about evolutions of various tooling that we use, whether it's what's going on with Meta and paid Meta, what's going on with LinkedIn and various changes there, but also into the actual tools, whether it's additional changes with Pardot going into Marketing Cloud of Salesforce, or whether it's what's going on with HubSpot as they look to OpenAI to integrate more capabilities and functionalities. So I think we could kind of split it down a few different perspectives, including also strategy and new go-to-market approaches.
Yeah, totally. And it would be nice to get a little bit, some of the podcasts I listen to, they've got a little bit of a standard format to them. They've even got, the odd transition between those sections. So I'd like to see if we could mix it up a little bit with that kind of stuff, professionalize the podcast.
Maybe even a question period at the very end.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've run some Ask Me Anythings, right, for customers, so I don't see why we couldn't try that too. But today we're looking at intelligent marketing.
So we've been slowly filtering that out. We've had a few press releases about other things. We've kind of started to intertwine this concept of intelligent marketing and what it means, and it's certainly going to be a really big part of the second half of 2025 and into 2026 for Goose Digital, and how we're rethinking not only our delivery model, but even how we want to market as a business.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's our 10-year anniversary this year, official 10 year. So
Still need a party. Yep.
What's that?
We still need a party.
Yeah, we still need a party. And we're doing a website.
We are.
So I can't remember what number of site this is, maybe fourth and 10. The original,
I think fourth.
Fourth and 10, yeah. And so we're constantly thinking about the website and how it represented. And it's like whenever you launch a site, it's like never really represents what you are at that time, because it takes some time to launch it. But we're trying to get closer. And this has been, I think, about 4 years.
Yeah.
It's 4 years since we've relaunched, and I think our site looks pretty good. Shout out to Jay, who did our site. But we're ready to sort of continue to kind of realign. And I think with the big push, a couple things. One, I think our kind of broader skill set that we've evolved over the last 4 years, particularly
in terms of services and capabilities.
Yeah, in terms of services and capabilities and platforms that we support. Number one. And then with this boom of AI and what that's been doing to the marketing industry, and in particular how we've started to use it, we figured, okay, well, this is a good time to kind of like relaunch the entire quote unquote brand, if you will. We're not changing the logo, and yeah, so that's where we've come up with a theme, if you will. I guess it's a theme, of philosophy. What would you call the intelligent marketing? An approach?
Yeah, like a direction or an imperative, if you will. Like just some sort of guide to say, like, where are we going and what does the mission now represent? Like,
right.
Really, like the outcome's still going to be driving immense marketing value for our clients across digital and strategic planning. But I think there's new mediums, there's new ways to deliver these things, and ways that we can think about how marketing can do that. So for sure, I think it's kind of all of the above of what you just said.
I feel like intelligent, then pick your word. It's like, has it been overdone? I mean, I don't know. Like, people use it for various like taglines or mantras. So I think it deserves a bit of explanation. I think on the new website we're going to have a kind of area dedicated to what do we believe that it is.
Well, right. I think this is the new juncture of marketing. So like intelligent marketing, what was previous marketing dumb marketing? It's kind of like the dumb phone, smartphone thing. And I think what it's an acknowledgement of, really, it's just about a heightened sense of capabilities and what we're going to do. Old phones were great. They connected people and they did what they were supposed to. But now all of a sudden phones have really evolved into being a much bigger thing.
The fact that we still call them phones is crazy.
Well, right. So I think with marketing, I think we're at a new place now where we can start to engage, intertwine with different ways to do things, and it's exciting. Like, my biggest fear is I'm not learning some of these things fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a little bit anxiety driven. I think most marketers would agree. Like, you go onto your LinkedIn feed for 5 minutes and you see the kinds of things people are doing with AI, and you're like, am I falling behind? I was literally like on track yesterday.
Right.
So like, what's going on? So I think what we're trying to do with intelligent marketing is it's not necessarily jumping all over buzz terms, but it's like, how can we apply some of these either new frameworks, new ways to do things, even new tools to go help marketers do better things, which is really engaging their audience, distributing messages, and driving value for their orgs.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if we break it down, I think we've said, like, it represents kind of what we would believe would be sort of what you'd want out of your marketing anyway, right? Like, you want to be able to deliver the business outcomes that you're looking for at a reasonable cost. And
well, maybe we should back up. So pillar one, we think of like AI with marketing or intelligent marketing, is how do we infuse the things we're doing today with AI, like sort of underpinning some of that. And then pillar two would be, now you're talking about like AI applications specifically, like do we have avatars or chatbots or things like that that are kind of more like, I don't know, independent of actual marketing activity. They're just running on the side doing things. And I think going back to those two pillars, what you're talking about now is clearly pillar one.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the intelligent marketing is sort of a recognition that, like you said, the world is changing around us. And part of what I think the promise of this quote unquote AI technology is really meant to be is, we're spending less of our time on work that is kind of menial or due to the nature of, having to click 15 clicks to get something done or 3 hours to do something. A system can help us do that, and I think that if you're a marketing agency in 2025 and certainly over the next 3 years, and you're not really embracing that, both I think underpinning what you're already doing, but also I think on the front end of your messaging, I think it creates a bit of a challenge around clients, picking you up as a prospective agency, right? And I think that whenever we're with a client, the number one concern they have is, are you bringing enough value to the table? And it's not like a concern of our clients. I just mean generally, whenever you're hiring anybody to do something for you, you want to know that they're, several steps beyond where you are, right? Yep. And that's essentially what we're sort of part of what we're saying with intelligent marketing is that A, we recognize that, B, we're starting to, pillar one, as you say, embed those things underneath our team, do more with less, pass that value down to our client. But ultimately, as a bigger picture, it's starting to sort of like push this theme that the vision here is that you shouldn't have to necessarily be held back. And over time, as these things become real, and I'm sure we'll talk about how we know they're not fully real yet, a small business, a medium business, large business can sort of begin to sort of realize the promise of all this MarTech and all these digital channels without blowing their brains out, right?
Well, the word constraint and value, both of those words are so important here. And I think historically, when an organization has realized and run a successful campaign, usually the CEO or even a revenue owner would say, hey, this is great, can we do 5 more? Well, we can't. Why is that? It took, I don't know, the sum of 500 hours of people's time over the last few months or something like that, right? But all of a sudden, when you're thinking about value and getting time back because of AI's ability to take away some of like the more remedial tasks or, the time-consuming things, it's not like critical thinking. It's just kind of like executing and doing. Some of that stuff's really actually happening. It's at a scary, alarming rate. So all of a sudden now, that question of can we do 5 more of those? It's like yes. Maybe it's actually closer to 10. So I think from a value and impact and just getting to speed, it's really there now. And that's exciting to me. And I think as a strategist, my brain immediately goes to, if you can empower AI and these toolings with really smart frameworks that you've cultivated and built and learned over your career, and you're just feeding them into AI, so it can help organize those 10 or 15 campaigns across different segments with altered messaging, that's such a great place for it. And my recommendation to anyone that I talk to about AI right now is you should be at minimum using it as a collaboration buddy. Upload your frameworks, upload your thesis, your documents, your PowerPoint decks, and ask it questions. Have it ask you questions. What are the top 5 questions you see or holes in this deck?
Yeah.
But it's really like, to me, that's really the starting place. Like, I don't know if you should be using it primarily as a research tool, but certainly as a collaboration and having people poke holes in it, particularly if you feel like you're the most senior marketer in your org and you don't have someone who you can really ping off for ideas and be challenged in a marketing way. This is a great co-pilot or collaborator.
Yeah. I think going on to like, a place where, maybe not even like, digital avatars and that level of like kind of craziness that I think, we certainly see. I think if we talk a little bit about, what we're doing right now to sort of, I think, push this shift. And I think it'll come through the website because that's going to have to be where everybody can sort of visualize it. Our staff even can kind of see, what are we talking about when we look at all this? Because people in the day-to-day, they're using the Geminis or whatever they're using, ChatGPT, Notion AI. We've got dozens of tools probably at this point that have AI enabled into them. They don't really capture that, in terms of just like, actually, this is a really important piece of Goose Digital going forward. And so we talk a little bit about like maybe the things that we're doing right now. And like you talked about like ideation of strategies and kind of getting stuff done. And I think like one area that we're doing a lot of is that, plus actually looking at, having really strong customized gems or GPTs that are like really dialed into a customer's value proposition. And we've got templates that lay out exactly the information that we want to capture, the tone of voice and all the brand information, so that when we're building content strategies and executing those content strategies, the draft that we're getting back is like very, very strong, right?
Yeah.
And that could be email, landing page, whatever. So to me, that side of it is just accelerated at an insane pace. If you're doing that really well, you're able to produce a bunch of your content well into the future at high levels of quality that we've never seen before.
Yeah, as you were saying that, my head was going to, do you remember like the first like 5 iterations of ChatGPT when it was like spitting out images of like whatever?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
woman in a church with an apple or something like that.
Yeah.
And like the first one was not great. Second one was a bit better. Third one was leaps and bounds better. Still room for improvement. And by the 5th iteration, it was, wow, this is starting to look pretty real. And I think that rapid development of quality continues, and it's already gotten so much better. We were just off camera, we were talking about a large organization who had previously resisted AI for a few years. And then this last sort of year into like maybe the first half of 2025, there's been a real shift, you were saying, as far as their adoption and view of AI. It's no longer avoid, don't do it. It's how can we actually use this? We now all of a sudden see the value that perhaps we didn't before.
Yeah, and I think that like, for a lot of organizations, like I'm sure there's a mix of feelings here. And I sympathize with organizations because it can be, especially large ones, it can be very unclear, well, what is this going to mean for us? Like, is this literally going to mean that we're putting our call centers out of business, or we're going to be shifting massive amounts of our of our environment over to AI. And
but also, like, what's like the risk side when you're operating a business of that scale? Like,
right.
what if, not to say forget about the human element, but putting that concern aside, what if you go all in on AI? We know very limited amounts of it overall. It's only really been a thing for 3-5 years, from being generous. What happens if it just completely blows up for unforeseen reasons, and now it's impacted that whole call center and all of your customers?
Yeah.
Like,
equally, we're seeing a fairly healthy amount of people that are simply not using it, and not so much in our business, although we do have a spectrum of people that would maybe not think to kind of go there first, and we've seen that culture shift where, why am I not actually engaging in now? I should be, and kind of getting into that habit forming. But we've seen a lot of scenarios where they're just not using it. Like, people won't use it.
Right.
And it's ego. I think there's a variety of reasons where they probably, to your point, like, they don't have the knowledge yet, where like, why would I use it? Like, I'm very good at what I do. Why would I use it? And they haven't kind of connected those dots yet, where it's like, well, actually, like, if you're a designer, one of the things you can use, and we just did this with a prospect right now, is you can actually do creative critiques. And is it going to be exactly maybe to a strategist level? Probably not, but does it give you something that you didn't quite see before? Or does it give you another point of view that maybe you hadn't considered? Some UI designers have no idea that you can take UIs and stick them in and get that type of feedback, right?
Oh, I know. I was saying before too, I'm trying to use AI at least a few times a day across any number of different sort of like reasons, rationales, like whether it's personal life, organize a dinner plan, or down to like I'm uploading a framework and asking for feedback. And I think I'm just trying to expose it to as many use cases as I can to kind of open my brain as to what is possible here.
Yeah.
And to that point, there's a lot of people who could use AI, but they're just not sure how it would fit into whatever use case or need they may have. And maybe they go and say, I really like doing this myself, though I don't need to do that. That's okay. But in some cases, it's going to be faster.
Yeah, and one of the things on developing this revised site map and this intelligent marketing vision, we've experimented a lot with these custom LLM, like customized gems or GPTs, where it's got a lot of information about Goose, and we've even gone to the point where we've created sales engineering versions where we're able to drive out SOWs in our format that we require based on the Google Meet transcripts, and with other quick prompts that provide background information, and we're getting back like quotes and SOW type information much faster than we would be able to do that in the past. Certainly in a way that is highly tailored to the client's need. That's another really good example where you might have a sales engineering team or a biz dev team that's takes time for them to turn around this stuff, and now you're able to accelerate.
I want to get to a point where we have like all agencies, we have our standard pitch decks or first call decks. Maybe feed it with a few additional slides. Like, there's a total of 20 slides. You're probably using 12 to 15 in most sessions, and we can just verbally dictate, or maybe written, what the meeting's about.
Right.
It's an introductory call with a B2B company in California, SaaS based, and they do, I don't know, med tech or something like that. And then it just spits out the deck, and it takes all the slides that are available, and all of a sudden we're an agency that's no longer building decks.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we were talking about like how all of our kind of like strategies today are based on a lot of these assumptions. So like, let's say like our first call deck, we don't really want to be changing our first call deck all that often, not because we don't want to, it's just because it's time consuming. And if we're customizing every single pitch, at the very first call, it's going to be very labor intensive, right? So what do we do? Well, we have a really solid first call deck, but you could argue, to your point, if it gets to the point where Gemini's environment's got our slide deck and our concepts, and it's like, hey, we're going into this meeting, and happens to be a California-based winery, and they're looking for like some Salesforce Marketing Cloud and some demand gen support, and plus they need like a strategist to come support them XYZ, boom, it like puts a much more customized version of that deck together with imagery that matches their environment and just totally changes the whole tone of the meeting. That's what I think is so exciting, is like you can't see these opportunities right now because all of our assumptions are based on the current environment, right?
Talk about challenging the norm. So we'll say we want a consistent approach to our sales. Some of it's our sales methodology, some of it's like our inability to make time to build 50 decks in a week or whatever. But what if we said, let's just turn this upside down and start from an AI first approach or mindset? And instead of having the same decks with like 1 or 2 slides with different sort of outputs as far as this is what we think we can do for you, Mr. and Mrs. Client, what if it was actually every deck is custom, because no longer are we personally having to do it.
Yeah.
We don't have that constraint, exactly. And as a result, now every first call deck is wildly different. Still on brand, still like in the tone.
Core,
But, oh man, that med tech company and the next med tech company, same company, same industry, vastly different decks. You could actually do that now. We can get a conversation around brand and how you want to like approach that.
Yeah.
But fundamentally,
but
like,
you could do that. I'm sure you could do that too. You could say like, we want to have a couple of core, pieces of information that really don't change, right? And maybe your theming and stuff like that, but the core content around like XYZ, like we want to keep that the same. But yeah, you're right. And I think that that's an example of like opportunities that kind of come out of nowhere when you're unconstrained, where it's like, well, why wouldn't we have a deck for every prospect? Why wouldn't we have different creative that we would run in our even something basic as a newsletter, like and adjust things like more rapidly than we might, and test more rapidly than we might otherwise, right? That's really exciting stuff.
But I think so. Then we're talking about websites. That's kind of how we got here. And what I said to you a while ago is like, I just want to have, it's just one page and it's like, it's almost a chat bot. It's like, what do you need?
Yeah.
And you just have this conversation with this like the Goose bot.
Yeah. We have this, it's funny because like one of our partners tried to launch that site 1.5 years ago, and it was actually, it was about almost a full year this month, and didn't go so well, so they backed off of it. And I think it was probably just ahead of their time. Yeah. But yeah, that was the concept of just kind of like, here's what we do, what do you want to know, with some pre-built prompts. Then it would literally pull back case studies and like customized information depending on what you were looking for. It's pretty wild.
That's probably the future. We're probably still a ways off. But in a more serious note, when we look at the sitemap, I find more than ever, because you're right, like we've historically tried to squeeze 2 to 3, in some cases 4 years out of a current iteration of site. The more I look at our sitemap now, which I would say is 95% locked in, is that like I'm more thinking about how does this sitemap evolve more than any other iteration of a website.
Right.
It's like, well, we know we're sort of on the precipice of crazy change. We all agree to that. What it's going to look like, I don't know. But I'm trying to think about it relative to, can the bones of the new site stay the same, recognizing like we're going to see some pretty wild evolution in the next, call it 1 to 2, maybe 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's kind of really what, the whole concept of intelligent marketing is meant to sort of represent for our customers, right? Like we're trying to go out there and be like, we understand that the world is changing. Your marketing should actually be getting better through this change. And that's going to be a combination of new opportunities that we really haven't been able to do due to these constraints in the past, just volumes and better quality. The quality improvements that we expect, the cost associated with. I mean, if any marketing teams out there not, under the clear impression that they should be able to do more with less, like that's not the right expectation. With all of this stuff, you really need to challenge yourself to be like, well, why do I think I can sort of write a better SOW manually than the draft that I might get from the environment first, right? I mean, come on, like that I really think is like one of these things where we are going to see a world where productivity goes up and we're going to be able to squeeze money out. So
there's a few things. I think you actually left out probably the most important one. So there's a cost value like of savings and like efficiencies. There's also just new capabilities we just never had before. And then the third one, arguably the most important, would be the speed of which we can move and react and launch. Like all kinds of barriers have been just totally wiped away.
Yeah.
It's exciting times, a bit scary, but also like anxiety driven because like, am I keeping up? But the reality is we as marketers now can move so much faster. So I guess to tie a bow on intelligent marketing, this is the next leap for marketing as far as adding value to your organization and really killing and crushing those objectives that you have, and further just driving a sense of whether it's pipeline, brand building, any kind of value at just like incrementally bigger, faster speed.
And I think to the extent that the agencies that are out there that have a strong account and strategy practice, we were talking about that earlier, really that's where we're going to see such a shift, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're shifting away from a lot of the doers that would traditionally not have the capability to write the brief or consult with a client or these types of things, and now you're shifting that to people that kind of have all that strategy and can execute against, even if it's not all of their day-to-day job, but it could be an account lead that is coming up and rising up to be a strategist, where they're able to just sort of execute now and go and iterate and iterate and iterate. And that's super exciting, I think, for the industry, because we've talked about this for a long time, that we kind of got MarTech to death, over the last 15 years, where everything was another subscription, another add-on, another widget, and marketing kind of became about running technology. Yep. And hey, like there's platforms and there's serious platforms and they do a lot of really amazing things if you know how to use them well. Mm-hmm. But you kind of got stuck in this world where 60% of the conversation was about this technology stuff and and it's like not about actually marketing and how to connect with our customers. And that I think is really neat, because you're going to see this switch where marketing, kind of real marketing comes back, I think, to the extent that it's, we maintain the strategy and we still have people that know how to do real marketing.
To that point, I think anyone who's been in especially B2B circles for call it like a decade or more, you've seen like the rise of challengers to market leaders, and it takes something like 8 to 10 years. It's like this like slow burn, and all of a sudden here's this cloud company doing whatever in SaaS, and now they're like, oh wow, they've been coming up for a while. I think now with AI and just a way faster approach, you're going to see challengers to market leaders in under 2 years. Mm-hmm. Like in 2 years' time, there will be market leaders that we haven't heard of today.
Yep.
That's my sort of prediction, but it's all based upon speed and the ability to move so much quicker and infinitely bigger.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right, so that's we're blowing the lid off the intelligent marketing.
That was our preview, and we've got some cool formats and ways that we want to approach some of the stuff moving forward.
Awesome. All right. Keep an eye out for the new website. Should be roughly around the mid-August timeframe.
Coming soon.